Hello, friends. Today, I want to ask you a question about personal finances. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your financial health today? 10 being you have no financial stress. You're pretty set to go. Things are going well, and you couldn't improve. And if that's you, then this video probably isn't for you. Or 1 being um, like it seems that everything you touches just kind of just falls apart, that no matter how much you try to get out of debt, you just get into a deeper pit and you're not sure what is causing this. Maybe your bills just keep on coming and you're not expecting them, and you're always trying to get ahead, but it's hard to get financially ahead. Maybe your bank goes into the negative you at times and you're having to pay insufficient fund fees, and you know that you still have further bills that you got to pay. If that's you, or if you're somewhere in between, rate yourself on a scale 1 to 10. Now, wherever you put yourself, you don't have to tell me, but I want to ask you, if I could show you a way that you can step up 1 or 2 or 3 notches from wherever you rated yourself, would you be interested in taking a look at some of the information that I have to share with you today? If yes, then I'm going to be talking about personal finances. I want to talk to you about the benefits and the results of keeping track of every penny that is received or that goes out, and how you can start doing that today to make a difference in your financial health. What I began to realize in March of 2016 is that God has set in place financial laws, principles, that people with finances understand these principles, they're applying them, and they're getting the results. If you obey these laws, there's blessings that come. If you disobey them, there are consequences. There are reasons why many people continue to stay poor, and we don't realize that there are laws that we are not following or putting into place. And so when we are able to apply these principles to our lives, God's blessings can be on what we touch. But if we disregard them, then God removes his blessings and we see the results. So I'm going to share with some of them. I was reading in the book of Luke, chapter 16, verse 2. The Bible says, "Give account of thy stewardship." Now, what is stewardship? Stewardship is like when someone, let's say someone gave you $100 and sent you off to town so that you can go buy some things for them or do an errand or something to that effect. That $100 is not yours. You are a steward of someone else's treasures. And so let's say you came back to that individual, the money was spent, and they ask you, okay, so where's my $100? Or what did you do with my $100? And you're like, I don't remember. I don't have any receipts. I don't have any tracks. I don't have objects to say that I've purchased things. I don't know. Do you think that person is going to want to entrust you with greater responsibility? Absolutely not. In like manner, the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 8 says, "All the gold and silver is mine, saith the Lord." 100% of what we own belongs to God. He is the owner of all things. Everything we have is, we are simply stewards of them. And Luke 16:2 tells us that we're going to have to give an account in the day of judgment about the stewardship that God has entrusted to us. So keeping account includes keeping account of every penny that is received or paid out. This is going to greatly help us. I read in a book, it was a book, Education. I really enjoy this book. It talks about some great principles how you can homeschool your children. And not just children, but all of us, how we can have a better Christian education. And in page 238, it stated that in the study of math or figures, when you're teaching children how to understand numbers, then we should make the study of figures practical. one way that we can do that is to teach even the children that with everything they have to keep account of what they spent and what they receive. So this is a very practical education. Now we're going to do that with $100. I mean with $1. Let's say a child receives $1. What should we do with that $1? We have counsel in the book of Malachi is set, or even Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6, it says, honor the Lord with thy substance and with the first fruits of all thine increase. So if your child increases $1, then that's your increase. The first fruits would be, or the tithe meaning 10% or tenth. So 10 cents of your dollar should return to God. Remember, God owns 100% of it, and He is requesting us that He receive 1/10. And then in Malachi it says, bring ye all the tithe into the storehouse, that there might be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, that I will not pour you out a blessing, and open to you the windows of heaven, that you won't have room enough to receive it. So there was a blessing pronounced on those who return the tenth to God, that 10 cents out of every dollar. And then offering, he says, ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed God. And ye ask, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. So it's not just tithe, but it's offering as well. God would have us to give, in addition to the tithe, an offering to be able to relieve the sick, to help furnish the Lord's cause. There's in the Old Testament, the lights, the housing, the building of the church, the temple, the house of God was to be paid in the days of Moses, to be built the tabernacle. That was a free will offering. The oil that lighted the sanctuary, that was the free will offering that was to be continually before the Lord. That light would never go out, because ye are the light of the world. The city sat on a hill that cannot be hid. God doesn't want us to no longer let our light shine. So once you have taken consideration of the 10 cents and the ancient Hebrews, the devout Hebrews, no more. There was about, like, I've read in another historical book, it was Patriarchs and Prophets, that there was about 1/3 of their income was devoted to religious purposes, and whatever that looked like. So now we have like 70 cents left of the finances. Now, what are we to do with these 70 cents? By keeping track of what comes in and what goes out, this will help teach the children and ourselves to learn the value and the right use of money in no better way. That I was reading from another book called Counsels on Stewardship. That was a very interesting book filled with different Bible principles of finances. And so if you want to understand the true value of money, keeping track of it will teach you that in no better way. So to be able to keep track of our personal finances will really help. Another thing that it does is it encourages the habits of benevolence. What is benevolence? Benevolence is giving. It is disinterested benevolence. It's self-sacrificing love. It is the gift. Like, think about the woman that had 2 mites. She gave, and God accepted her giving because it required a sacrifice. She gave all that she had. And Jesus pointed her gift out above those who were casting in out of their abundance that did not require a sacrifice. Jesus said of her 2 mites, she has given more than they all. And so it doesn't just matter about the amount we give, but the motive in which we give it. God loveth a cheerful giver. And so one way too I've read of having a self-denial box. At any time that we are tempted to indulge in excess clothing that we really don't need, or candies, or maybe going out to eat, where times that we're not that it's wrong to go out to eat, but many times we could go out to eat in excess where we could economize more, and the money that we would have spent on indulging of appetite, we can put towards a missionary box, a missionary fund, a self-denial box, and teaching the children to put in it every penny that they did not spend on needless candies or assortments. And that strengthens self-denial, or giving. Benevolence is like a muscle. The more we exercise it, the stronger it gets. So actually having a self-denial box and putting it in a prominent place in the home is a great way to teach the children how to, as Jesus said in Luke chapter 14 verse 29, let him who cometh after me take up his cross, deny himself, and follow me. And Jesus said that if you don't take up your cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciple. He desires us to practice economy. So it will encourage that. It will also, by keeping accounts, it will distinguish the difference, the balance between what is true economy in the middle, and on one side you have stinginess, which is just an unnecessary hoarding of money when it is actually going to cause harm to yourself or others. Sometimes we will spend 5 hours to do it ourselves in order to save $10 to have someone else do it, or different things like that. I realize that a lot of times we don't, anytime that we're looking at finances, we don't see the difference between expending money and investing money. And so that can create an issue of stinginess, while on the opposite extreme there is prodigality, which is like the prodigal son who went out, he received his inheritance from his father, he went out and spent it all on riotous living, had parties, and as long as he had money, he had many friends. But when the money went out, no more friends. He found himself eating, working as a servant to a hog, a raiser of pigs. And he was so hungry, he was so in debt, that he found himself eating the food that the pigs eat. And as he was doing that, he was reminded, the servants in my Father's house have more bread than I do. They're treated better than I am. This life in the world is not what I thought it was. I've made a terrible mistake. And he decided to rise up and go to his father's house. And he went to his father's house and he said, Father, I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Please accept me as a hired servant. And the way that his father responded, he put a clean garment around him, gave him the family ring, showing that you're still my son. And he accepted him. He gave him a hug. He killed the fattest cow, and they had a feast, that my son who was lost is now found, and he's here again. That great love is a symbol of showing our Heavenly Father's love, how each one of us have gone our own way. We have done things our own way. We have used our inheritance, our God-given powers of intellect, of mind, of strength, of health, and we have expended it on riotous living. We're not worthy to be called the sons of God, but God sent forth his Son to die for us, represented by that slain fatted cow, that in that sacrifice God committed his love towards us, that while we were yet sinners, he died for us. And so he accepts us into the family, that our Father in heaven, we can call the monarch of the universe our Heavenly Father, and he accepts us. It's amazing. So we want to avoid the prodigality of like that extreme. We don't want stinginess over here, prodigalness over here. We want the true economy and to be able to give an account to everything that we have, recognizing God's ownership in everything. So also, keeping accounts of what you have, it opens your eyes to see the financial leaks. You begin to realize, whoa, I actually spent like, I may not have enough money for the bills or for gas to go to church, or gas to go to work or to whatever, but then it's like I'm spending $400 a month in cigarettes and alcohol, or maybe I am spending I'm spending a little here, a little there. Pennies make dollars. It's the little amounts that add up to make these massive things. If you have a bucket and that bucket is dripping one drop at a time, eventually that one drop fills an entire bucket. So we don't realize that these little leaks that we think are of minor importance, they are, it's like the huge, massive ships with one little leak ignored can sink the whole boat. And so keeping account of every penny helps us to keep track of the financial leaks and then put the plugs where they need to go. So that will help you to get ahead and take your notch from a 4 to a 5, from a 6 to a 7. It will help you wherever you are if you're not doing this already. Also, checking your expenses, keeping account, it shows you what is your real wants? What do you really need? And what do you think you need? It gives you context. You can see the big picture and see where the different investments or expenses really fall into the category, the way to balance. Like, what do I really need? It helps you to see the difference, because sometimes we think, oh, I need this, but we don't. I read of a story in the 1800s. It was amazing. There were some colporteurs, missionaries over in Scandinavia. They were selling books, and no matter what, they were selling these books and they couldn't get ahead. There was like 15 of them. They didn't have enough money to support themselves in full-time ministry. That the organization was just going down. They were only making like $3,000 to support like 15 people. And the leader of the ministry, he was counseled by another leader, and that leader gave him more financial advice, and he was inspired to do one last chance, try it one more time and see if he could. And what he decided to do was he brought all of his colporteurs together, his missionaries, and he said, what we're going to do is we're going to keep track of every penny that gets spent and every penny that comes in, and we're going to keep personal financial accounting for each missionary involved in this work, this effort, this missionary endeavor, this ministry. And in doing that, each of them, they were going to come together with him, and he could counsel them, not dictate, but to counsel them on where could greater economy be practiced, or maybe some financial advice on, and perhaps maybe spend it a little bit later, or to be able to make wiser financial decisions, and doing that each time regularly with the individuals involved in this ministry in Scandinavia. And as a result, the next year they sold like $8,000 worth of books, and then the next year they eventually went up to like $15,000. It went from $3,000 to not being able to support themselves to $15,000. They were flourishing. The more they could sell, the more books they can buy, and the more books they can sell to get the gospel to the uttermost parts of the world. And it started with keeping account of thy stewardship, tracking every penny that goes in and out. So by doing this, you can support self-supporting missionaries. How many of you have a desire to go out in ministry and to work for the Lord, but you're like, how am I going to support myself? Well, Luke chapter 16, verse 11, it gives a very sound financial principle. He that is faithful in that which is least shall be faithful also in much. If you can't be faithful for the $1 that God gives you, why would he give you 10? If God gives you $100, and you're not keeping account of thy stewardship, as Luke 16:2 says, why would he trust you with $1,000? Think about it. If you want to be a self-supporting missionary, take this personal financing course very seriously, because this could just be the key that is going to unlock your ability to work for God in a more self-supporting way. So another thing that personal finances helps is it helps you to create a goal so that you can start payment plans towards getting out of debt. Once you track all the debts you owe, the assets you have, and the finances that go in and out, it helps you to start to project and to budget what can you set aside, even if it's $5 a month or $50 a month or however much is your financial realm of what you're working with. This will help you to pay off those debts. Now, we're looking at one more thing that it does is keeping track. Helps it aids you in and children to learn how to give systematically and regularly, instead of just like some spur of the moment based on impulse or feelings, like, oh, I feel like I need to donate. Or sometimes you're listening to those televangelists and they're like, give to the cause now, we need your finances, and you're like, oh no, I haven't been giving, I need to give to the Lord. And so you give out of impulse, but then you go another several months without giving. That isn't how God would have you to do it. He wants there to be systematic and regular giving. And by being able to keep account of what you have, you will be able to return, not give, but return to God the 10%, because all of it is His. He's just asking you to return a tenth. And then with that, and then the other offering that you give, and the other about 70 cents of every dollar, you're able to see, what am I going to do with that? That's what this helps with. Now I want to share with you, in keeping account of things, I have found this program to be very helpful. This is Mint. Mint.com is the world's #1 free personal financing program. It has apps for your phone, your tablets, your desktop, your laptops, whatever it is. And Mint is really nice because, one, it is free. It's all designed for your personal finances. It will automatically track the income and outgo, your expenses that you use. So all the benefits that you see here, this automatically does it. When you link your account to it, it's totally safe. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that use this program without getting hacked. And also you can put in your bills, and it can send you reminders through text message or email, or just having it on the interface that lets you know when your bills are coming, so you will no longer have unexpected bills. And what you can do with those bills is, if you know you have yearly bills that need to be paid, you can take the amount of your yearly bill, divide it by 12, and pay that bill every month as though it was a monthly bill. So by the end of the year, you'll have enough in your savings to just pay it off when it's due. So it's not unexpected. The unexpected bills, by a result of not keeping track of your finances, is really difficult. If you have a home-based business, which I encourage, if any of you are familiar with Dave Ramsey, he's I don't really listen to his stuff, but I understand that he is a very well-known financial advisor. A lot of people respect him. He says, in this economy, if you're financially behind, the very worst thing that you can do to become financially stable or better is to get a second job. That is not what you want to do. He highly encourages people to have a home-based business, because with a home-based business, you can work in the pockets of your time, and you can have tax deductions on all sorts of stuff. Your gas, some of your food, the electricity, your internet, your cell phone bill. You can deduct these things from your taxes, and with Mint, you're able to keep track of the different tax deductions that you have so that you don't have to give that. And to Caesar, you're able to have more to be able to give to the Lord's cause. So another thing that Mint will help with, as well as just keeping account, is it teaches you to live within your means by using budgets. They have a feature on there that allows you, here's your income, here's your bills, here are your goals, and so this is your budget room. This is your finances that you can go towards groceries, towards saving to another goal you have, getting out of debt, paying off a loan, or whatever that may be. This is your budget zone area that you can now divvy off to specific things. So the budget feature is really helpful. Another thing, that you can keep account for every asset that you own, whether it's a vehicle, a home, or anything of worth value, even computers or technology or something that is of value. You can keep track of your assets that you have. Knowing your assets helps you to understand how you can give account of thy stewardship. Also, while it automatically tracks your spendings and your income, it categorizes each transaction based on groceries, based on travel, on clothing, on gas, on insurance, different bills, whatever the case may be. Maybe they're online courses. It helps you identify the categories, and it helps you to see your personal spending habits. Because sometimes you might find that some parents, their children are wearing like rag clothes or like holy clothes or dirty clothes, and it's just hard. They don't have the right clothes, and yet in their closet they're going to stores and they're buying all these like really nice clothing, and their closet's packed with stuff. And if they could only have an account book that they're keeping track of these things, they can see how much they're spending on their personal clothes and how much they're spending on their children, then it really helps to bring awareness to, wait a second, if I spend less money in my clothes, then I can spend more money in taking care of my children that are a heritage of the Lord that God has entrusted to my care. And so by identifying your personal spending habits, that helps you to make wiser decisions and go in that scale 1 to 10 from a 5 to a 6 to a 2 to a 3. It helps you. Also, it helps you to set goals with this program, where you can save for a vehicle, you can save for future travel that you know, or an event, a camp meeting that you want to attend, the convocations of God's people. You can save to putting into the offering. You can have a self-denial box. Whatever you may do, you can do that with Mint. It's a very helpful course, and you can see through the benefits. And I don't expect you to really be able to see everything on this board, but I just wanted to have it more for my notes. But you can at least understand through what we have covered. If you want to increase your financial health, then the way to do it is obeying the principles that God has set forth. Now, these aren't all the financial principles, but these are some of them. And the sooner you start them, the better. And as you involve other people, you teach others how to do this, you're more likely to reach your goals. Tell people what your goal is, and they're going to want